Digital natives. My nephew was born in 1996. He was born after Windows 95. He was born after the internet. Even though he lives in rural Alberta and only had access to high-speed internet in the past 2 years, he's the perfect example of a digital native. As a baby, his crib sang him to sleep. As a toddler, his toys talk back to him. As a child, he learned to read from a DVD. As a junior high student, his homework is posted online. As an adult, he's going to experience love, relationships, work, commerce, and learning in a virtual way that we can't even accurately predict. Digital natives didn't just grow up online with the internet as a babysitter. It's so much more than that. Even parents that wanted to avoid exposure to the internet have surrounded their children with technology from a very early age. When he was 4, I showed my nephew my trumpet and let him play with it. He brought it to his lips and tried to blow. It didn't work, and he put it down. He looked up to me and said, "The batteries must be broken." My nephew's going into grade 9 this fall. The students in my high school aren't that far ahead of him. Every semester, I literally notice a difference in the group of students we admit to our school. As a group, they're technologically stronger, more proficient, more adept, and more adaptable. They continue to surpass many of the teachers with their stronger, broader, and deeper understanding of technologies. This causes some angst for teachers who generally like to feel in control and tend to put restrictions on students. For example, many teachers aren't familiar with new video, blogging, or podcasting technologies and would therefore discourage students from submitting work in this way. Even if they don't actively stipulate that these formats won't be acceptable, their use of structured rubrics and text-based exemplars would discourage digital natives from expressing themselves in natural and personal ways. I don't necessarily agree with the author's assertion that digital natives aren't as conscientious in their ability to critically reflect on technologies, the use of technology, or associated media texts. I think it's very difficult to judge how critical a student is being when the teacher doesn't fully understand the nuances in the way the student does. The students I've worked with have been very media-savvy consumers and producers, and even understand complexities like authorship, copyright, online privacy, and security. I agree that the teacher's role is to help students come to a stronger understanding, but we can't let our prejudices get in the way and assume that students aren't media-savvy in the ways we want them to be. As my nephew continues to grow, I think about his younger siblings, all born this side of the millennium. These students will soon be in our classrooms, and we need to make sure we're prepared for them. What happens in another half-generation when digital natives begin having their own children? We all have the responsibility to be adequately prepared for this inevitable generation, Digi 2.0. In the very strictest sense, I am not a digital native, but that's not always apparent. I think I only have a very slight accent, and by virtues of my relative age and experience, I've been able to take on the role of interpreter and guide for many of my colleagues. I've often heard the comment that, "This must be easy for you, you grew up with this," or "How long have you been involved in technology?" In fact, our school's guidance counselor asked me this very question last week. She was surprised to learn that I didn't use a computer until I was in college, and only got high-speed internet once I started teaching at CBE Learn. I thought that since I was going to be teaching at an online school, I should probably upgrade to high-speed internet. I didn't even have a cell phone or digital camera until 2005. Now, my job is at a highly progressive online school, working to offer professional development and technical support to a group of teachers, many who have 4 or 5 times more teaching experience than I do. And I'm working on my master's degree in leadership in technology. So if I'm not a digital native, what gives me the advantage that many of my colleagues seem to admire? I believe I have a willingness to learn, and a generally positive attitude when it comes to new ideas and new technologies. My formal teaching career started at CBE Learn, and so I developed many of my core beliefs, strategies, and personal attributes in a virtual environment. I understand this means I don't have the same kinds of experience that most other teachers have, but I also believe that I don't have the baggage of a traditional teaching environment. This has been a true advantage to me when trying to problem solve or determine a better, more efficient way to work. I don't have preconceived notions about what a high school is or how things are typically done. Often, teachers, as problem solvers, are asked to think outside the box. I never even knew there was a box. In addition, I sincerely believe in the benefits technology can bring to each student's learning experience. I don't always know how to use the remote control for my cable television. I don't always remember the difference between megabytes and gigabytes. However, I see the value that using an online forum can have for the student who's reluctant to raise his hand in class. I see the way students can accurately, easily, and authentically represent themselves in digital ways. I see the benefits of using a video conferencing session to help a student write an exam because she suffers from severe anxiety and isn't able to leave her house. If I can translate understanding to another teacher and help them open their eyes to the possibility, I believe I have been successful as a leader.